Hello, parents. Welcome to the Masterful Parenting Podcast. I'm Anne Alvares, parent coach, school counselor, and mother of two. Do you sometimes struggle with your parenting role? Do you notice that sometimes you're repeating patterns that you learned in your own childhood? Maybe you are carrying childhood pain that has not been healed, and you notice that it is showing up in your parenting with your own children. Perhaps you yell or get frustrated easily. Maybe you are directing them or telling them what to do all the time, and you notice that your actions are affecting your relationship with your children. Well, parents, I totally understand this. I came from childhood pain and I learned how to be a relational parent with my children. And I can teach this to you as well. This podcast is all about learning how to heal the childhood pain that we are carrying so that we can foster healthy relationships with our kids. Join us every week for a new show, and we will dive into the healing and the fostering of healthy relationships with our children. Hello, parents. Welcome to the Masterful Parenting Podcast. I'm so excited today because we have a special guest, Alistair Moes. Alistair has run Moose Anger Management since 1995, and he has been in the counseling field since 1989. He leads a team of anger management therapists, which include his partner in life and work and co owner, Alejandra Proaño. This experience includes working with anger and trauma and historic abuse in a manner that honors each person and allows for deep healing, as well as looking at the practical tools of anger management. During the last 28 years, he has worked with thousands of people, mostly men, who have made the phone call out of a desire to create change. Alistair helps people to connect to the intelligence that exists in their heads, hearts, and bodies in a manner that invites a deeper connection with themselves and those close to them. He works exclusively with self referred clients, which includes those sent from the workplace or strongly encouraged by a partner, family member, and unfortunately, sometimes a lawyer. Welcome, Alistair. So happy to have you here.
Great to be here, Anne. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so my first question is why do people get angry?
Well, anger is a natural emotion. We all get angry, hopefully. Sometimes people come to me and say, "Oh, I never get angry." And I say, "Oh, I'm sorry." Because it's actually really unhealthy if we repress the anger. And anger is the guardian of our boundaries. So when people transgress our boundaries or mistreat us or neglect us or ignore us or what have you, anger is there and we can respond wisely to the anger, like from that adult part of ourselves, or all of us have the capacity, no matter what your age, to react more childishly and have a temper tantrum or just respond from that more immature part of ourselves rather than the adult. But we're supposed to get angry, and we can, I think, big changes happen in individuals and even worldwide, where people have had enough, and the anger can help them speak up. And if they speak up wisely, if they consult with people, if they respond, like from the adult part, then the anger turns into something good, and it can help us become more focused and determined, and we can be wise with it or not so wise.
I love that. I love that you are normalizing anger, that it's natural. I love the term guardian of our boundaries. That is such a good term because it's information, right? When we're getting angry,
Mhm.
it's information for us uh, to pay attention to something, right? That's going on.
And
So
it's very physical in our
yes,
body. Like
yes.
anger will rise up in us like heat or a wave, and And we, like one of the critical things, of course, is to pause, to get past that first reactiveness that, we've all reacted at times poorly, guaranteed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So why does trauma sit in our bodies?
So trauma happens when something bad occurs and we can neither fight nor flee. So that can happen if we get into a bad car accident where somebody hits us that we didn't even see them coming, or something really suddenly bad happens as an adult, but especially for children. When bad things happen to children, they can neither fight nor flee, so it stays in them. Animals in the wild rarely ever get PTSD or are traumatized, because literally they either fight or flee. I mean, there's a couple other things that happen, like the freeze mode, or what's called fawning, but more often it's fight or flight. And if an animal gets away, really all they do is just shake, and that expresses the trauma. But for us human beings, nobody shows us how to do that, or we're embarrassed, or we don't understand it, and we overthink it, and it just stays in our body. And so when somebody has an overreaction to anger, often there's a history to it, and sometimes you can take that history and go back to when the person was younger, or sometimes even you can go back generations. Right, I can go back generations and see my opa, my Dutch grandfather, ended up being imprisoned by the Nazis in the Second World War, and he was very cold to everybody after that. I don't know about before that, maybe before too, but his kids didn't feel his love. Whenever he felt a lot going on inside him, he just suppressed it and acted like he was fine, which may have served him well in the war, but it didn't serve him well as far as being a dad. And then my dad did the same thing, just acted like everything's fine. And then I noticed when I had young kids, I was starting to do the same thing, as if me just pretending like everything was fine was the right thing to do. It's like I wouldn't think that what I did really mattered that much, which is what my dad did. And then, I faced that. I looked at it, I investigated it, and I realized, no, my kids need me to show up and show my love in whatever way, and talk with them about that. And so the challenge that a lot of parents come to us with is that they don't want to they want to stop the cyclical nature of this, that it goes down from one generation. They want to stop that, whether the anger was out or whether it was just suppressed. And the repressing of anger is really bad for our immune system.
Yes, it's so unhealthy, right? Because we haven't expressed it. And so it'll show up in other ways, right? Making us ill physically.
Yeah, well, and sometimes if I work with a couple, sometimes it's actually really healthy for the guy, if he hasn't been showing anger, to show the anger in when I'm present, even if it's over Zoom, so that his partner can feel it and not be overwhelmed by it. Or sometimes the woman needs to be able to express that to her partner so that she's fully seen and heard. But that anger can be expressed from an adult place. It doesn't have to be a temper tantrum. And often girls grow up learning that they're not allowed to, like, anger, don't ever show it. And like, we need to get good at showing anger. And when an adult man or whoever their partner is able to create a safe space so that they speak their anger, and their partner says something like, is there more?
Yes.
Like they create this safe space for them so that they can express everything. Then they it moves through them, right? And the emotions need movement. It needs expression, but it needs healthy expression. And if there's that safe container, then anger can be expressed and heard and seen and valued, and there can still be love there.
Yes.
That's not what most of us grew up observing. It's certainly not what I grew up observing. I grew up observing things getting broken or smashed, and then the next morning, everybody would just pretend like nothing happened. And as a kid, I loved that. I thought, great. But then I would act like a complete imbecile as an adult, or cross boundaries. And the next day, somebody would hold me accountable. I'm like, what are you doing? That's not the way it works.
Yeah.
So I definitely had a lot to learn when I was, well, I still have more to learn, but
What
go ahead.
sorry. I love that. I love your personal story. Because like you're the instrument that will change your family
Mhm.
generations to come because you
Yes.
realized that it wasn't healthy the way that you grew up, the way your grandfather and your father repressed their emotions and didn't really show you fully love, right? And you wanted to change
Mhm.
that with your own children. I don't know what was it, what helped you get that awareness? Do you recall? Was there an actual a moment?
I think it's because I had a really good connection with my mom. I felt
Mm,
safe with her.
mm,
I mean, she died very suddenly when I was 18. Um, and so she wasn't there, and that had a tremendous impact. But when I was growing up, I felt her love, and she felt her father's love.
yes.
Not so much her mother's love, but her father. And somehow that connection happened with me. And so I think it's through that I developed this ability. Like we we learn to love others and ourselves by being loved.
Yes.
And so we have to experience love growing up. The more love that we experience growing up, the more healthy. I mean, certainly some of the time it was unconditional, but not all the time, if that doesn't sound too crazy. But I got that, and I had some of that in me. And sometimes people have to learn how to do that as an adult because they didn't get that as a kid. And it's possible, but it takes some real serious effort and focus and determination to create that. It helps. And so when I'm talking with parents, like the main thing is be loving to your kids.
Yes.
That matters more than anything, and the more unconditional the love is, the better. Like I think all parents yell at their kids at some point. Like that's, I don't know. I mean,
We're
maybe
not
there's some,
we're not perfect. We're
that
not
that's for
perfect.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah. And I drove she turns 24 tomorrow, my daughter, to work this morning downtown, before the podcast, and we hung out
Nice.
and had coffee. We do that every week, and it's
That's so
good to
nice.
have good relationships with my kids.
I love that. I just love that. I'm a boy mom. So I'm always very, very aware of my impact on my boys, giving them that safe space to express their emotions, saying it's okay to express your emotions. It's okay to
Mm-hmm.
be free. It's okay to feel what you're feeling, right? And I think I just want like shout out to moms out there, boy moms out there. Like you can make an impact. Alistair's mom made an impact in his life.
Yeah.
We can make impact in our boys' lives so that they know emotions are normal and need to be expressed. I just
Well,
love,
and we make an impact, whether it's a good one or a bad one, or usually a bit of both. Right. So I've got one of each, but my dad certainly had an impact. And and I love my dad. I mean,
yes,
he died quite a few years ago too, but um and I learned from him, I learned quite a few things where it's like okay, just don't do that. That's not the right way to do it.
Yes.
And I'm not here to blame him. I'm here to learn from those mistakes. Like I feel like the mistakes and the pains of the past are our teachers, or if we don't learn the lesson, we tend to repeat that. So I feel like I honor my dad's pain because he got it from his dad, and his dad probably got it from, so on and so forth.
Yes.
And it's like honoring the pain of those previous generations if we actually face it and learn from it.
Yes. Yes. I love that. I love that. The pains of our past are our teachers. Oh, so good. Okay. What are some tips that you have for parents, or how do you help parents with your business?
Well, I think a parent's job really is to become dialed into themselves, to become really connected with their core values. And to do that, we need to be present. We need to be connected to our heart and the intelligence in our body and in our head, and aware of that part of us that leads us to be run by our ego, which includes our past traumas. So that reactive part of you that doesn't think things through, where afterwards you feel the shame and you go, oh man, what did I do or say that for? It's to connect with and be super intimate with the part of you that goes down that destructive path that we all have in us, and the constructive path. And the constructive path tends to happen when we get enough sleep, when we get in some exercise, when we're doing things that inspire us, when we eat healthy, when we ask for help when we need it. Just all of these self-care things, when we practice gratitude, when we, just put that stuff on display for our kids and be compassionate to self and others. These, again, are not things that I learned a lot about growing up. So as a young man, I was pretty immature, right? It's just like I look back and, oh man. But, you know, we all can learn if we put our minds to it.
Yes.
And, the people that I see have success are the ones that just keep working at it. They decide this is a lifelong journey where I'm going to continue to grow and learn. And no matter how old your kids are, whether they're 2 or 50, you still have a big impact on them,
Yes.
whether you're connected with them or not. And the more you work on yourself, the more you can have a better impact on them. So especially kids, parents with young moms, you want to make sure you're really aware of your own nervous system, so that when you're with your kids, if the kid's having a temper tantrum, that you don't join them, right? Because the kid's body is like vibrating like crazy, and they're going into fight or flight, and a parent can join the kid
Yes.
or self-regulate and make sure that they're breathing deeply and just soothing their kid, not
Okay.
trying to have a conversation with them or not trying to explain anything, just being aware, okay, they're totally escalated. Probably what I need to do is just make loving sounds and rub their back and help
Mhm.
them calm down and relax. That's the best thing. Doesn't matter if we're in the middle of the supermarket and we're embarrassed. We can acknowledge our embarrassment, but just the main thing is really soothing that little kid in us. And I think at some level we do that for our partners as well. And hopefully our
Yes.
partners do that for us as well. Right.
Yes.
I talk
Yes.
with couples, and one will start to kind of freak out, right? And I think that the more people escalate, the more their emotional maturity level drops down to, single digits at least. And the one partner can join the other at that level, or they can stay the adult and be there to create a safe container and help soothe them. So
I
that,
love
you
that.
know, that's not easy,
No, it takes
especially
practice.
since,
Takes a
yep,
lot of practice, right?
yeah,
Because we get our triggers, right? And we want to fight. But I just love that. I love that. Like just slowing, taking a pause, and then just slowing things down and understanding. You don't have to react, right? You
yeah.
can
Well,
also,
especially for the dads, a lot of guys and women too, they'll they'll be at work all day and all they do is fix things.
yes,
Anything goes wrong, they fix it. But when they get home, that's not a good strategy.
hmm
Sometimes the best strategy is to shut your mouth and listen. Just take
yes,
your time. If you make sure that your family members feel really truly heard and seen and valued and loved, half of conflicts just disappear right in that moment.
yes,
But
yes.
that's not what we as men learn growing up typically.
That's true.
So then we have to learn it as an adult and practice and see how powerful the pause and listening, how much more powerful those things are than trying to resolve it or fix it.
Yes,
Right? If we look after each other's nervous systems, then we're looking after the relationship. Then we make the relationship a priority rather than trying to fix whatever, or we get stuck on the principle of this is, that, and then the
right to
fingers
be
start
right.
waving.
Right to be right. Oh,
Yeah.
it speaks to me because I'm a relational parent. This is what I teach parents, how to be relational with your children. And it's impactful for all your relationships, right? To focus on the relationship, um,
Yes.
is really, really the key. Wow,
Yeah.
that is so amazing. I learned so much from you today, Alistair. I want to thank you so much. Can you please let our listeners know how they can work with you, where they can find you?
Angerman.online
Okay.
and healinganger.ca, two websites,
Okay.
and at Moose Anger Management on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube and various different social media, and 778-989-5134.
Do you
People
have
can,
your links on LinkedIn?
I'm not sure,
Okay. Okay. All right.
but
So
but I'm on LinkedIn for sure. You can clearly find me there too,
okay, if you
just
want to send
under my name.
okay,
Yeah,
perfect. If you want to send me your links, I will add them with the show notes, and then parents can find you. People can find you. Okay.
great.
All
Thank you so
right.
much.
Thank you so much. I just want to recap for parents. I just love all of your quotes, Alistair. So I'm just gonna requote you. Anger is natural. Anger is the guardian of our boundaries. I just love that. That's so wise. And pains of our past are our teachers. So we can learn from the pains of our past. And we need to connect with ourselves as parents. We need to adopt self-care. We need to be healthy. We need to ask for help when we need it. We need to practice gratitude and compassion, self-compassion. And when we're in experiencing that anger, we need to pause and we need to listen and focus on relationships. So thank you so much, Alistair. I really, really appreciate you coming to the show. And well, yeah, I'm so grateful. Thank you so much.
You are most welcome, and thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, parents. We will have you at the next podcast episode. Hope that you got a lot out of this. I know I did. Take care. Thank you, parents, for joining the show today. I hope it was valuable and that you have some useful tools to use with your children. If this show blessed you or changed you in any way, I would appreciate a review on my podcast, or subscribe to my YouTube channel, or perhaps you could even recommend our Masterful Parenting to your family and friends. Thank you so much, parents.